Coming up at 11, Russia and Ukraine agree on a deal that could end a wartime standoff, threatening food security around the world.
Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News at 11.
Good evening, I'm Keaton Hall. Millions of tons of vital Ukrainian grains will soon be shipped to countries that desperately need it. On Friday, Russia and Ukraine agreed on a deal that would lift a block on exports from Black Sea ports. The United Nations and Turkey helped negotiate the agreement signed in Istanbul, hoping it will ease a global food crisis caused by the war. As Meredith Wood reports, it comes on the same day the White House announced additional war assistance to Ukraine.
A major diplomatic breakthrough in the war between Russia and Ukraine. On Friday in Istanbul, leaders of both countries signed a deal to end a standoff threatening global food security.
This is an unprecedented agreement between two parties engaged in bloody conflict. But that conflict continues.
Grains are some of Ukraine's most important exports, but for several months, Russia has been blocking access to Ukrainian Black Sea ports. That means millions of tons of Ukrainian grain has not been allowed to be exported to all the countries that desperately need it. Part of the deal means ships carrying grains can now navigate through a safe corridor in the Black Sea and other passes to reach global markets.
Two of the harbors will be ready in a few days, and we hope that if ships can go in, we will be able maximum 2 weeks to start exporting.
The United Nations and Turkey facilitated the negotiations, and both are hopeful the deal will bring relief to millions and stabilize global food prices.
Millions of people will be relieved of this danger of hunger.
The deal also allows for the safe passage of Russian fertilizers, which are vital to maximize food production. Meanwhile, on Friday, the White House announced additional security assistance to Ukraine aimed at bolstering the country's fight against Russia. I'm Meredith Wood reporting.
Under the agreement, ships would be inspected before they arrive to ensure weapons are not being smuggled into Ukraine. Representatives from Ukraine, Russia, and Turkey will be conducting the inspections.
Well, it was a rather toasty day around the mountains today. We have plenty more where that came from as we head into the weekend. Looking outside right now from our camera at the Pikeville Medical Center, sitting near 80 right now. Plenty of lights over the city of Pikeville, or at least the city of Pikeville right now. Highs today were toasty, low 90s. That's about 5 to 6 degrees above where we should be this time of year. Not off the charts hot, but factor in the humidity and it felt even warmer than that. Still middle and even upper 70s for some at this hour. Other areas farther into southeast Kentucky and southwest Virginia now in the middle and upper 60s. Pikeville and Jackson still knocking on 80's door, and it still feels like 82 apiece at this hour. Satellite radar is clear around the mountains, so we think we should be okay for the nighttime hours. Upper 60s to near 70 with mostly clear skies. I've got the details on how much warmer we look to get. That's coming up in just a few minutes. Keaton.
Thank you, Evan. We've got the latest update on the COVID-19 situation here in Kentucky. Take a look at your screen. This is the latest community levels map that was sent out by Team Kentucky this afternoon. You can see that many of the counties in the Commonwealth are in red, including almost all of the coverage area of eastern Kentucky. The only counties that are not red are Jackson, Estill, and Pulaski. Currently, the state is 12 to 20% short of its nursing staff needs. Unfortunately, the Kentucky Nurses Association says a small part of that shortage is due to nurses dying by suicide. Delanor Manson is the CEO of the Kentucky Nurses Association. She says at its peak, the pandemic was a major contributor, with so many deaths surrounding nurses. Another factor, she says, the workload was too exhausting and that there was not enough support staff. The state projects it will need 16,000 nurses by 2024.
But it certainly does play into the whole situation. You know, if you're missing 58, that's 58 less that you could have.
A nurse at Baptist Health says they knew 5 years ago that they were heading into a major national nursing shortage before the pandemic. As we try to beat the heat this weekend, pharmacists are reminding you to keep your medicines in a cool area. If your medicines are delivered, you should get them from your mailbox as soon as you can. Heat and humidity can break down pills, making them ineffective, meaning you might not get the full dosage of needed medicine.
A lot of medicines are going to what we call biologics, so they use monoclonal antibodies. Those all can be greatly affected by heat.
If you're running errands and will not be home for a couple hours and stop by the pharmacy, you should take a cooler to help keep your medicines from getting too hot. A mayoral candidate in Cumberland received a visit from police after growing marijuana in his yard. Danny Miller is seeking election for the mayor of Cumberland. Cumberland police say an anonymous tip led them to a home in the Springfield community. Police say that's when they noticed the marijuana plants growing next to Miller's porch. Miller has been cited for cultivating marijuana. Quilting is a beloved art form within Appalachian culture and historically within the African American community. One Southeast Kentucky organization is working to revive quilting within Black Appalachia through visual media. WYMT's Alyssa Williams has more.
Aiming to revive an art with deep roots in the mountains.
Within the African American community, this art of quilting, it's diminishing. It's not being passed down to the next generation.
And to ensure certain pieces of their history are never unstitched.
What we're trying to do is to discover, rediscover, to preserve that history and add those pages back into the history book.
To fulfill their mission, the Southeast Kentucky African American Museum and Cultural Center created a video series called The Stories Behind the Quilts, where Black Appalachians share stories about their family quilts and join community members in working on a quilt together.
We want to look at our history, explore, rediscover, and tell the stories of those who've gone before us, those who are currently here still making history, and just bringing all of that to light.
The center's executive director, Emily Hudson, says the series also aims to bridge the gap between older and younger Black Appalachians.
That connection has to be made in order for this tradition and this art to be passed down. That interest has to be sparked.
The series workshops were shot inside Appalachian Quilt and Craft in Hazard, with shop employees saying they learned a lot about their own community throughout filming.
It's just really interesting to see all the things that happened that I didn't know about in this town, and it was inspiring.
Stitching together the pieces of African American history in Appalachia, one quilt and story at a time. In Hazard, Alyssa Williams, WYMT Mountain News.
The Stories Behind the Quilt series is on YouTube and currently has 4 parts. The center's executive director, Emily Hudson, says for the series' second season, she plans to travel to other parts of Kentucky, Indiana, and Ohio to hear even more quilting stories. From hardship at a young age to maturity beyond his years, 12-year-old Reed Elliott has become a light in the Corbin community. Reed survived cancer twice before turning 8 years old and now goes across the country singing while getting to know everyone who crosses his path. He's been on the Ellen DeGeneres Show and had a meeting with President George W. Bush discussing the battles he's won and goals he strives to reach. Reed says he started singing for people at a young age.
I would hum songs like Amazing Grace, and he cared that much for me. And then when I was 4 years old, I sung in church for the first time.
Elliott says he hopes to spread a positive influence beyond just singing as he plans on making a presidential run in 2048. If you're looking for some fun by the water this weekend, officials in Pikeville want to help. Pikeville Pond and Paddle continues to bring families to the downtown area, hitting the water to fish or float. Tourism professionals say it's like a hidden gem in the city of Pikeville that they hope more people start taking advantage of.
It's the Pikeville Cut-Through Project rerouted the river to help reduce flooding in town. So this is actually the remnants of that river. So it's a very long, narrow pond. So you just got a lot of bank that you can fish. So you really don't even need a boat. And you can access it from multiple different points and pretty much walk the entire perimeter of the pond.
Colin says it's going to be a hot weekend, but there's plenty of shade provided in the area, so he encourages people to drop in downtown. The 2022 Mountain Girl Experience kicked off in Pikeville earlier today. Organizers described the event as Appalachian Women Helping Appalachian Women. And the event is also to benefit Turning Point Domestic Violence Services in the West Care Perry Klein Emergency Shelter. Co-organizer Beck Smallwood also said this is about giving mountain girls a space to bloom and platform for their voices.
Especially in rural Appalachia, it's really important that we make a platform, we create a space, we pull up a seat to that table. And so it's been a beautiful thing to watch, just all the women kind of bloom and embrace that, and to give them a place to do that. That's our goal.
Smallwood also said the event is not just for the mountain girls, but for the mountain men as well, and would like to invite the entire region out for tomorrow's day full of festivities. And wrapping up right now is the first day of the North Fork Music Festival in Hazard. The event is in its third year here in the Queen City. Folks came out to enjoy the music and get some local food and drinks. Axe throwing and ping pong were also on the docket today, and a special act is performing right now.
The headline band's out of Alabama. They are the original Tom Petty tribute band that he told those guys, you can be my Tom Petty tribute band. They start at 10 o'clock, they'll go to 11:30. So after 11:30, I'm sure the Broken Spoke and the new North Fork bar will be full.
The festivities continue tomorrow with more music in the evening, but earlier in the day, folks can take part in a cornhole competition and a Jeep ride. People are encouraged to bring cash and a chair. Coming up at 11, the White House doctor says President Joe Biden's mild symptoms have improved since testing positive for COVID.
Plus, continue those heat precautions as we head into the weekend because very hot temperatures continue. The latest on the 90 is continuing. Coming up.